Hello, welcome everybody to the Variphy Block Party. My name is Phil Corbin, Sales and Marketing Director here at Variphy. Over the next 2 days, we're going to cover all things Variphy, demos, deep dives, dunk tanks, mixing drinks, also handing out over 10K of prizes. At the end of day 2 tomorrow, we're going to give away our work from home package worth over $3,000. So make sure to stay on the stream to win. Also, if you have any other questions during this event, please ask them in the Q&A banner at the bottom right of your screen. Do not hesitate. We have CDR Ninjas standing by. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Danimal. We're going to kind of go around the screen for introductions. Danimal.
Thanks, Phil. Hello, everyone. Dan Schmidt here, systems engineer of 5 years here at Variphy. I want to personally thank everyone for joining day 1 of our inaugural Variphy Block Party. We've got a lot in store for you these next 2 days. First, I would want to say all of this would not be possible if it weren't for our awesome panel. So let's do some introductions here to everyone on the panel. Included in our panel today is Lane Hu and Danny Tran, founders of Variphy. Annie Dang and Tom Nguyen, account managers. They're going to be live at the bar to raffle off some awesome prizes and lead in some other fun activities. For our system engineers on the panel, please meet Mike Stratton, aka Magic Mike. Matt Sykes, aka Matty Ice. You've heard of CDR Jesus. Now meet the man behind the name, Victor Verba. And last but not least, please meet account manager Edgar Salazar. So now that we've met the panel, we'd like to talk a little bit about why we decided to do our first ever virtual block party. So as most of you know, we usually attend Cisco Live every year, and we look forward to that to hang out with you, to engage with our customers, partners, and meet new prospects. But due to COVID-19, unfortunately, Cisco Live was canceled, but we still wanted a way to do that this year. So we decided to do this virtually and still be able to engage with all of you. So to do this, we've got a packed agenda. To cover each of the agenda topics today, I'm going to hand it back over to Phil, Sales and Marketing Director. Phil?
Thanks, Dan. Again, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Packed 2 days of events. We're going to get into our keynote address with Lane and Danny next. Then go through our product roadmap, some interesting and exciting stuff, all Variphy. We'll get into a 20-minute challenge. So we'll have Vic and Edgar do a 20-minute challenge install of our product. If he goes 1 second over, Edgar's going to get dunked in the dunk tank. We have Tan and Annie, Mixology course showing us how to make a whiskey sour and a Paloma, some tasty drinks. And then at the end, we'll have it open it up for Q&A, and we'll have an hour kind of get your questions answered. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Lane and Danny for our keynote address. Take it away.
Thanks, Phil, and thanks to everyone for joining us today, and hopefully tomorrow as well for our first Variphy virtual block party. I can promise you this will definitely not be our last, and a lot of fun to put together, and exciting to see it come to reality today. My name is Lane Hu, co-founder of Variphy. Danny and I could not be any prouder to be kicking off this event on behalf of our incredibly talented, focused, and dedicated team here at Variphy. To all those who are actually tuning in from our team, we're very lucky and fortunate to work with you all, and thank you again. This morning I logged in, and to see over 300 of our customers and partners represented here tuning in today is incredibly humbling. And starting this actual company 16 years ago now in October, working with many of you personally over the years, we know firsthand how busy you are, how demanding your organizations are of your skill sets, of your time, and we just really appreciate spending time with us today. obviously tomorrow as well, and most importantly, from trusting us to help you with your day-to-day operations in as many ways as we can. As Dan mentioned earlier, today is June 1st. If these weren't the challenging times that we're all living in currently, many of us, and likely many of you, would be in Las Vegas for Cisco Live. It's a week, it's a tradition really to us that we really look forward to, not just for growing our company, for growing our brand, but more importantly, to catch up with and meet with as many of you as possible, whether it's on the floor, the expo center, at our booth, at a hosted event, which at this year would have been a private whiskey bar, or at the craps table, which you can obviously always find me at. I really look forward to just kind of learning more about how we're helping you, how we can help you more, what you guys deal with. Of course, ideally with a cold beverage in hand. Instead, of course, we find ourselves in these times. Each day is a little different. Some days are better than others, trying to make our best of it. I'd like to thank our block party team for making this possible. They worked really hard in taking this up several notches, not just one, to broadcast this as a live stream. So not just your typical webinar, your typical WebEx. We thought, go big or go home. So thanks in particular to Dre, who's our Ninja engineer that many of you already work with behind the scenes as our producer, and of course, Phil, our director of marketing sales, and Dan Schmidt for helping really make this week a reality. As an extra thank you to you all for joining, we'll be giving away several prizes throughout today and tomorrow's sessions. At the end of tomorrow, of course, will be our grand prize award. We curated a work from home like a boss package that contains a bunch of things: a MacBook Pro, a powered desk, a crazy good monitor, a beer subscription, all sorts of things, a green screen. Our company, as many of you know, is entirely virtual. We all work from home. So we've curated what we think are some great ways to kind of step up the work from home package for many of us who now are doing that probably 5 days a week. If you know Danny or myself, we're not the type of guys who really need the limelight. Frankly, I don't even want it. And so when it came to trying to figure out what's best to do for a keynote, we decided we really didn't want to toot our own horn. Many of you are existing customers and partners with us. We didn't think it'd make a ton of sense for you guys to hear how successful we've been. So we kind of struggled a bit with what to really focus this keynote on. So maybe Danny, you want to shed some light and kick this off in terms of what we decided to do here?
Yeah, happy to, Lane. Thanks a lot. Really grateful to all the attendees here, given these unsettling times. Even though you guys are all sheltered in place, hopefully, or under curfew, we're hearing from many of you that, this is pretty much the busiest time you've ever seen. And that's certainly been the case with our team as well. So, along with, Lane and the rest of the team, I'm truly humbled by the turnout of our fans, of our customers, partners. Thank you so much. Besides our deep gratitude towards first responders, it really is a good time to take a moment out and be thankful for the collaboration space that most of us have built our livelihoods on. And it's more important than ever, during these turbulent times. So many of you here today are supporting hospitals, schools, state and local governments, financial services, energy, manufacturing, retail, legal. I might be missing a couple of verticals. So if I missed you, my apologies there, on top of juggling your kids at home. So, thank you for what you do. We hope you and your loved ones are healthy, physically and mentally. In addition to the team actually putting on their pants today, at least from what I can see, we've got a great schedule set up for you, and the team has selected some, super cool prizes to give away. I'm really excited to hear Lane and Dan discuss the roadmap and what we've got cooking there. Like Lane mentioned, we are not the kind of guys, never been that way, and we're uncomfortable touting our own accomplishments. And, especially given a time like this, it would make us, especially tone deaf to not to continue to do that. So it's just not who we are. The team had suggested, maybe we share with you guys kind of how we got our start, and maybe that can provide some inspiration and just give you guys a little bit more insight into your favorite analytics provider. So, Lane and I will kind of, share with you some stories. And, so how did it all start? How did Variphy kind of become the company that we are today? So Lane and I, met at a VoIP startup in 2002 in San Francisco, a company by the name of Claris. I'm sure maybe a few of you here kind of recognize that name. But we both had experience working for numerous startups at the time, and big five consulting companies as well. And both of us were, have been entrenched in the communication space our entire careers. Back then, companies in 2002 were still really struggling with VoIP migration and deployment. And the old company that we worked for developed an IP telephony testing solution. So testing things that we take for granted today, like voice, basically voice quality, dial tone, voicemail. It was still pretty much a crapshoot. And this was all circa Call Manager. Lane and I still call it Call Manager back, Call Manager 3.2 back in 2002. So, we both spent about 2 years there, and then we would both leave to launch Variphy in late 2004. So, big question most people ask us was, what was the impetus to kind of take that first step? What was going through our minds at the time? And to be honest, if things had gone smoothly, we both would have stuck it out a little bit longer to see if there was, going to be a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. Uh, but the company had its challenges, and not unlike the overwhelming number of startups back in those days, it certainly helped us learn what not to do when it was our turn. And the primary issue, though, was something that neither one of us could really control, and that was the quality of the code, the quality of the product development, and neither one of us were in those roles, at the time. Lane was the company's top lead solutions consultant, and I was business development, hired to basically grow the Cisco relationship, which I handled at my previous startup. So, one other benefit that we had is both of us had reported to them, the two co-founders of that company. So, a little backstory on that company as well. The primary goal at the time was to try to develop these advanced solutions for Cisco advanced services to help those engineers use us to test and validate their deployments. So, deployment was a big deal back then. In addition to Cisco purchasing licenses for their advanced services team, Cisco would also fund licenses for their collaboration partners, many of them in attendance today. So that would have been a huge strategic advantage for our old company to be able to have Cisco using the product, Cisco paying for their partners to use the product. And if that wasn't enough, I think the final piece was Cisco wanted to make a strategic investment in the company, which was unheard of at the time, given our size, and that's, Cisco being the powerhouse that they are, they don't have to gamble. They just pick the winners and they buy the winners. And then at that point, they roll it out to their channel partners. So things were lined up pretty well for us. And, for those of you, who aren't old and cranky like me, Cisco had acquired a company called Celsius in 2002. So right when Lane and I had started with Claris. Celsius, the acquisition of Celsius basically launched Cisco's IP telephony business. So what was Celsius? Became Celsius Call Manager, would become Cisco Call Manager, which launched the Cisco IP Communications Business Unit, the IPCBU. The acronyms have changed over the years, but everything was teed up so perfectly for us at our old company. A successful proof of concept at that Cisco lab in Richardson was all that was required, literally, to have launched that company. And our software was supposed to pull information from Call Manager, but the reports kind of never really worked accurately, which leads back to Lane as well. So, Lane, do you want to share a little bit about?
Sure. It's funny you mentioned Call Manager. That's certainly the terms that you and I use. Back, I think even the 3.2 was one of the first versions that I really got my hands on and had to figure out how it worked, or at least how it was supposed to work. Times have changed now with 12.5, as Cisco's really kind of smoothed things out over the last 16, 17 years. But it's funny, it's a dead giveaway when someone says the word Call Manager. I mean, they kind of go back, probably as far as we do, which is nice to hear because we still hear it from time to time. Yeah, my role at the previous company was highly technical. I was in the field. I was working with potential customers, partners, Cisco, to prove that the product could do what they were saying it could do, add value, be accurate. And I was in that lab at Cisco. I think one of the challenges that I dealt with personally was the product was not the most reliable to install. And when it was successful, the data it didn't pull out a call manager at the time wasn't always correct. And as many of you on this call would certainly appreciate, if we presented to you data that didn't look like your own environment, you'd have question marks. And those were always some really fun conversations to dance around. One particular case was I was at the Cisco CAP account lab in Building 6 down in Richardson, Texas. I'm sure many of you have been there, heard about it at least. It's where they actually replicate the exact setup of some of their high-profile accounts. And back then, it was really used for testing and for bug confirmation to make sure that the infrastructure was working properly. So we were allowed to plug our software in there, pull some reports, show what our product could do, and it just didn't go too well. And I can recall that was the moment in my head where I thought, "Is this really that hard to get right?" Danny, do you have any recollections of that particular lab?
Yeah, I mean, I remember that CAP lab well, Lane. Basically, it was the same building that the IP CBU, leadership team, the Celsius team was located. As Lane said, handled all the most at-risk customers. And given call managers' infancy back then, they had just purchased Celsius. Those camp accounts were ridiculously hard to get right, and they were having their issues. Lane and I were having our own issues as well. But we were both on the front lines at Cisco, trying desperately to get this POC thing to work, doing our little dance, buying as much time as we could for our development team, and ultimately putting our reputations at stake, knowing that our company wasn't going to be able to deliver on their commitments in a meaningful way. So that's my recollection of that, Lane.
Yeah, it's those experiences, both positive and some negative, of course, as we all have done and seen in our lives, has really shaped how we run and have built this company. We've certainly made our share of mistakes here as well. The first of which is I wrote the code for Variphy for the first 10 years, which many of our software development team who we've been lucky to bring on is kind of been having to deal with ever since. So, it's certainly part of the fun. And I think that is also reflected in our proof of concept process. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do is be trustworthy and be credible. And that starts first and foremost with our people, but obviously our product second. It's much easier to have put your best foot forward every hour of every day when you believe in what you're doing and you believe in the product that you have. When you're trying to position something that doesn't really work all that well, it can be certainly conflicting. And certainly earlier in my career, it's something I maybe didn't handle quite as well as I might have today. But again, it's much better to just believe in what you're doing from the get-go. So in our proof of concept process, which many, if not all of you, have gone through with us, hopefully you can kind of see how easy it is to take it up off the ground with us as compared to other vendors in our space, not just the product, but the engineers and the sales teams that you're working with on our part. It's all a cohesive vision for how we want to treat everybody, and first and foremost about trust and credibility. In fact, I think in a little bit here later today, you'll even see two of our guys, Vic and Edgar, try to see if they can go take that from end to end and do it in about 20 minutes or less. So that should be fun to see if they can pull that off.
Yeah, thanks, Lane. Again, though those product shortcomings, certainly expedited our departure, it was probably a little bit less about that and more that, we would always talk about ideas. We were both entrepreneurs at heart. Always had that bug. So, when we started Variphy, there were certainly team members that we invited along the way, but, they just didn't take that step. As anytime you decide to start something new, everybody has to kind of balance the risk and reward there. And we certainly understood that. I think at that point in our lives, we knew that we were going to, venture out and start our own thing. And, as Elaine said, anyone working with Call Manager back then knew there were no shortage of areas for improvement you could focus on. And so, the wheels were turning super fast at that point. But, the one lesson I'd have, as far as looking back is that, we really were trying to focus on finding the perfect idea to launch this, company, this $1 million idea, if you will, to start with. And call detail analytics, which is, which is our bread and butter these days and what you guys kind of know us for. That certainly wasn't the case for the first 10 years of our existence. It wouldn't, CDR wouldn't even be on our radar for 5 years after we had started the company. There were already mature vendors doing call detail record reporting, and part of the excitement of being a startup is kind of trying to do something new and unique and innovative, and instead of kind of coming up with and trying to find the killer idea, if you will. But the reality is you don't really need to kind of have that killer idea. Again, our product has gone in and out of listening to what the customers really wanted, what the customers were ready for, what our customers were willing to pay for at that point, and that kind of led us down the road to call analytics, and it is who we are today. So it wasn't about having that great idea. It's just changed quite a bit. It really is kind of having passion for what you want to do, being able to plan, and being persistent. And if you're passionate about it, persistence is going to follow suit as well. And again, you don't really need to have that idea to get you stuck. Everything becomes a series of achievable steps. If you have the idea, you've got a passion for it, you're a good planner and you're persistent. And again, we weren't even coders at that point in our careers, even though Lane, again, became a coder out of necessity, and spent 10 years of it building the first version of Variphy.
Yeah, actually, looking back, the intention wasn't for me to write any code. If you recall, starting this company, and I can recall the Java for Dummy books that I actually purchased and probably still own, and just to kind of get going. And it certainly was a struggle. I totally agree with what you're saying about just listening. Listening is so much easier than trying to come up with a $1 million or $1 billion idea in a think tank. We certainly didn't have the time for that. We were a two-man show for several years before we even brought on our actual third team member here. In retrospect, we probably waited longer than we should have. When it's a two-man show, it's literally just the two of us, and that means if one of us wasn't thinking about it, doing it, or getting it done, it wasn't getting done. And that's, when you're trying to keep up with customer and partner demands and ideas, which there was no shortage of, that became a struggle. It's a good problem to have. I didn't have to worry about what to build. I just had to worry about what to build next. But I'll fondly, and sometimes not so fondly, certainly look back and never forget the chaotic daily struggle of trying to write new code and having to kind of stop and take a demo call with Danny and a potential customer, and then jump to a customer support session, and then switch back and maybe write one more line of code and get called away again. It was those were chaotic times, fun times. No coincidence that was probably the time I started to really get drink a lot of whiskey, and that's how some decent ideas are sometimes made, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I don't want to spend a half hour here talking about some of those pain points, Lane. That's probably better served in Vegas over drinks. And we certainly we hustled hard, but we also didn't have the revenue to hire for the longest time. We were finally paying ourselves, livable wages, which was a relief. But Lane was running on fumes. I couldn't ask for a better co-founder here. Again, every support call, every sales call, everything was coming directly to us. We wouldn't, I kind of think about it. I think Lane does too. I'm still shaking my head that we hired Brian McKay, our first support engineer, in 2013. And, to me, that's kind of like our new start date when we really started to build the team. And, we didn't hire the current development team, Derek, falter until 2015. And our first QA hire was Laura in 2018. So that, I'm still shaking my head on the timing of that when we reflect back to when we made some of these key hires that we have today. And can you guys imagine, and we've had some customers here that go back with us 10 years. Back then, maybe you'd have thought differently if you knew that you were buying from a two-man company. And when we got our start, it wasn't uncommon for companies to ask us for financials to make sure they weren't buying from a company that would be out of business literally in a few months. And so, yeah, we had to, find a way to grow the team.
Yeah, that's really been the most important step. And I recall, and each and every team member that we've been fortunate to bring on, and the actual interview process, what that's been like, the obvious multitude of needs we have that everyone can fill. The common thread amongst all our team members is is the actual human fit, something that everyone here knows well when we interview and we look for new potential team members to join. You know, the skill sets can be learned, they can be trained. Obviously, we want people who know how to do certain things, but what you can't really teach someone is what we believe is how to be a good team member, how to be a good person when you're someone who's going to be in the field, how you can treat every single customer, no matter the size, no matter the complexity of the opportunity, the same. It's something that we really, really value here above all else. Our team here is the most amazing bunch of people that I could ever imagine working with, not just for what we do, the code that we produce, the product that we produce, the level of support and service that I hope you all feel we consistently provide, but really how we do it. And I only wish everyone could see what goes on behind the scenes here, the level of collaboration that goes on. It's really unparalleled, certainly different than any experience I've had at a previous company, you know, where we had departments that were fairly combative with one another. Here, it's quite the opposite. In fact, sometimes I have to kind of tone down the level of collaboration because we actually have to get some stuff done. But you know, it's certainly a great problem to have.
Yeah, no doubt. We have an amazing team. And it's not the bosses saying that they're amazing. I think that they do enjoy being here. We take immense pride. They all do. Everybody on the team here takes immense pride in our support to you. And I can speak for everyone also to say, in saying that, you know, what makes us happiest is, you know, when we get responses about how great our support team is, how great Dre or Brian have been, how helpful one of our team members has been. But that being said, you know, we've also hired guys on this team that go back as far as we do with regards to being, you know, Cisco CDR and collab experts. So yeah, as Lane mentioned, how is important, we'll train them up. But, you know, Cisco CDR and collab, it's not simple, you know, especially when you think about the multitude of the types of reports that are required in with regards to call analytics. So without a doubt, there isn't a collective team with more experience when it comes to Cisco call analytics than the guys that we have on this team. And a lot of the guys here on this panel as well have as much experience as Lane and I do when it comes to call analytics. So, you know, with that, there are things that we did which helped and things that we didn't, which made all the difference when we, you know, started the company and achieved the success that we have today. And a big part of that was actually not bringing on any venture capital or any debt. And we both had experience with that. You know, owing money has to be one of the most, you know, stressful things everyone deals with, you know, whether it's your home, your car, your student loans, anything, you know. So prior to Variphy, I spent a lot of time putting together slides for board members and investors to marry what our companies wanted to do versus the return required, you know, to match that investment. And that was so typical in Silicon Valley. You know, simply put, you know, I was backing into the business plan, building a revenue model based on the return that investors needed to justify their investment. And, you know, I was a bit green. I didn't fully understand that. But, you know, to simplify it, you know, if you gave me $1 million today, you probably wouldn't care what I did as long as you got at least 20+% return on that. And that was probably the most important part of your investment, was to guarantee that I would pay you a certain amount back. So, you know, similar model, you know, we've seen business plans morph with the strain of the investment and the amount of dollars that they borrowed, and, you know, really promising ideas that just collapsed under the weight of the capital. You know, VCs were looking for home runs back then. They'd rather have you strike out than see you string a bunch of singles together. And, you know, the one quote I'll bring up, something Tony Robbins likes to say is, you know, where your focus goes is where your energy flows. And, you know, my focus for the first 5+10 years maybe of my life pre-Variphy was always around our investors, you know. And, you know, when Lane and I embarked on this, it was to be our own bosses, you know, and having venture capital, it's essentially kind of having bosses. You know, you spend all of your time worrying about them, more about them than launching your own business. And certainly, you know, our recipe isn't the only recipe, and times have changed. But when we started Variphy, you know, that was kind of the model. You know, thankfully today, VCs aren't the only place to go for capital. But, you know, like any sort of debt, I wouldn't go there unless you absolutely needed the cash to get started. And if you do, make sure you try to maintain majority control. Because Lane and I, we both had plenty of friends who started businesses that have raised capital, and again are going through the same pain of literally being feeling like they're beholden, indebted to, right, the capital that they've assumed to get their businesses started. So in addition to not raising the capital, I think the second big part was we were able to secure a proof of concept with a partner customer, which enabled us to kind of put our focus on, hey, what we're good at, which is making them successful, listening to them, getting their feedback on what we needed to build next, and just letting the product grow organically. And that's probably why it took us so dang long to hire our first few guys. But like Lane also mentioned, in our experience, gambling on where the enterprise market is going when you start a company is way more difficult for a software company, because a lot of the things that we thought were revolutionary cool ideas, most of our customers, they didn't have budget for that. They had budget for call analytics. They didn't necessarily have budget for one of our first features, remote phone control. So listening to where our customers are at, not necessarily trying to get too far ahead of ourselves, were things I remember. So we kind of talked a little about culture. We talked a bit about employees, venture capital, not letting having the perfect idea. Customer happiness thing, you want to touch that?
Yeah, it's huge. By not having investors to keep happy, so to speak, it enabled us to focus on our customers. And we didn't have employees at the time. It was just the two of us. So we just presumed each other was happy, and we could focus on the customers kind of one at a time. One thing that I actually think was really interesting about this space, and I think still holds true today just as much as it did back in 2004, was what we hear from one customer or one partner generally applies to virtually everybody else. Everyone's kind of dealing with the same challenges, the same things that could be automated or could be improved with what they do and the data they need, or the kind of info they need to make a key decision on. And so we're able to really listen and take those things one by one from each customer and kind of build a product around it, rather than trying to guess and be ahead of the market, just like Danny said, because you guys aren't ready to buy something that you don't yet have a need for, right? And so that's actually been in some ways kind of easy, because then we can just listen. And I think what we do well here is we focus on what that input is, and we try to productize it in a way that can be applied to everybody in a generic way. We're not building one-off little features here and hard-coded reports, so to speak. We don't have any canned reports. You probably all heard that in a demo. We build our mantra here on the internal side is, when in doubt, make it configurable. Let's put as many knobs and levers. And I know that can be overwhelming at times to learn, but it enables us to take 3 similar feature requests and build a product that addresses all of them, and 30 more with the same thing. And I think that's something that we take a lot of pride in. And by doing that, we've kind of been able to grow organically, just like Danny said. And then let it spread virally. We didn't hire our awesome director of marketing, Phil, until 2016, I believe it was. We've kind of let the word grow, as it was, and we've kind of been off the races ever since. Same thing, but with our team members, by not having to really keep our board of directors or any form of investment community happy, we've been able to focus on our employees, our team members, who are, first and foremost, the most important people here. If we're not treating them perfectly, or as perfectly as we possibly can, there's no way we can expect them to treat you guys as well as too. And that it doesn't just go without saying. We really try to make this the best place for them to be. And what we've seen is that just inevitably leads to them treating everybody as well as they can, day in and day out. And we're truly thankful for that.
No doubt. Ditto that, Lane. Couldn't have said it any better. Any lasting memories that you want to share with the crew?
You kind of bring back the early days, and we've had a couple of team members relocate to the Denver, Colorado area and its suburbs over the last 6 months or so, I think. And it brings me back to one of our early customers. I think maybe the first customer that I actually ever flew out to visit with any form of a product. And that was a hospital in Denver. Coincidentally, they no longer have Cisco. But this would have been probably spring of 2005. And I can recall they wanted to have a live demonstration of our first feature at the time, which was our remote phone control. They were pretty new Cisco deployment back then. They had the 7940s, 7960s, and these shiny new 7970s color phones, if for those of you who actually can recall or might still have one of those lying around. And they wanted to see if we could control these phones and kind of how that worked. And so they asked me to fly out to Colorado from the Bay Area, which of course we jumped at the opportunity to. And I can recall this was, before TSA pre-check, still on the heels a bit of September 11th, 2001. So airport security was kind of a big thing. And so I can recall I had my laptop, which had the demo. I had to bring a call manager, which was running on a different laptop. I had the 3 phones, the 40 and the 60 and the 70, which means I had 5 airport security bins, plus the 6th for my little toiletry bag of fluid. Those had to be in a separate bin back then. There was no pre-check to run all it through. And I can recall both inbound or outbound to Denver and coming back to the Bay Area, that I could feel and hear the collective groan of the people behind me in the security line. And TSA didn't know what to do with the phones, actually. They actually weren't sure whether I needed to have them in their own bin or not. Long story short, I get to Colorado. I had 10 minutes to get my cluster, my mobile cluster, if you will, up and running with a PoE switch I had brought. And what I thought would be a 2 or 3 hour meeting of them just grilling me on how it worked and whether it would be reliable and this and that. It was about a 25-minute meeting. Once I was able to, I tactically put each of the phones in front of the key people in that meeting, and I sat across them at this 10-foot conference table. And as soon as they could see that I was pushing buttons for them from where I was, I could literally see the light go on in their head. And what I thought would be a 2 hour meeting was a 25-minute thank you, and let's move forward and get this thing in house, and kind of off the races, so to speak.
Yeah, that was a good one, man. Sorry, I cut you off.
Memories from you? Yeah, no worries. We got too many to tell, probably.
No. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that customer well. I remember that partner well too. So that was a good one. Thanks for taking me back there. Mm-hmm. My memory was, burning Variphy CDs from my living room and slapping our logos on them. I think I bought some cheap old Memorex CD burner kit, and I literally, if you guys, again, Lane was head of everything pretty much at that point. We were rolling out new releases probably every other day. So by the time I slapped that logo on this disc, it was like, well, I've got this new patch I need to put this on. And but that's how companies delivered products back then. Nobody wanted to pay us without physical delivery of these discs. And I couldn't imagine even having to ship out CDs to our customers these days. If we had to do that, dude, I think we would probably be in the taco truck business. So, man. Anyways, so to wrap up the keynote, the byproduct of everything that we discussed has led us to some impressive growth every year that we've been in existence. And thanks to you guys. We're all sincerely grateful, for your continued business, for your trust. Grateful to our product champions, to our partners, and for those of you that have been evangelizing us, ever since we got this thing started. Really appreciate all the customer referrals as well. We, again, we're not salesy kind of guys. So, it was a big part of, keeping the lights on, keeping us going. So we, much appreciated for the folks that do continue to keep introducing more and more customers to us. We're putting together a great referral program, so we'll reward you for it, and we'll reward them for it as well. And again, like Lane said, many thanks to this team here. Love this team, and much appreciated for pulling together the first block party. In this together certainly applies to our Cisco Unified Collab family. If there's anything that we can do to improve on our service to you, as always, please don't hesitate to let us know. This team here aims to please. So, with that, I think now is the perfect time to kind of kick away over to Annie and Tom. They're going to be giving away some ridiculously cool prizes. My favorite is actually coming up first, which is the Segway scooter. So, again, if you weren't in lockdown, you'd be able to cruise all over the place. But I'm going to kick it over to our dynamic duo again, live from the bar. Going to be selecting our lucky winners.
Welcome! Welcome to Variphy's block party. My name is Annie. Hello, everybody. My name is Tom. I've been here for 10 years. I look forward to spending the next 2 hours and drinking with everybody. Oh, yeah, I want to give a special shout out to all my prospects, customers, partners, coworkers, my mom, my dad, Stephen Curry, and everyone else. Cheers.
Thanks, Tom. All right, so we're very excited to be announcing the winners for 4 multiple rounds and multiple prizes. So let's go ahead and announce the first 2 winners for the Amazon gift card. Tom, do you want to announce the winners?
Let's do this. The first winner is Daniel Ware. Congrats.
And the next winner for the Amazon gift card is
Stephen Walker.
And last but not least, we're going to be giving away the Segway 9-Bot electric scooter. This bad boy can drive up to 18 miles per hour with a 40-mile range. Tom, do you want to announce the winner?
Do this. The lucky winner is Matt Bowman. Yay!
Congratulations. We'll be in touch right after the event. Make sure you have your name and email entered so we can reach out and contact you. Congratulations once again, guys.
You guys in 10 minutes.
All right, now I'm going to hand it off to Lane and Dan for the product roadmap.
Hey guys, long time no talk. That was a nice little 1-minute break. Dan, you with me here?
Sorry, Lane. Sorry, I'm here. Sorry. Yep, I'm here. Thanks.
Right on. Just got you off guard there. All right. So, yeah, we wanted to share a bit with you guys with kind of what we've been working on, both what's new and improved this year and what was just released, as well as what's coming down the pipe. So excited to kind of share with you all. And as Phil mentioned earlier in the session here, there's a question panel in your bottom right. So certainly feel free to use that, and we'll try to get as many questions as answered as we possibly can. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So what have we been up to? We're always developing. Generally speaking, from a product development standpoint, we're working on at least 2, if not more, or 3 different versions of the product at the same time. As many of you know, hopefully I've upgraded to version 12.15 was released just last week on the 27th. I'll share with you guys and kind of walk through a live little showcase of that just in about a minute here. And of course, we're working on 12.2 now. And I'll talk a bit more in some further slides about what some of the cornerstone improvements of that release will be. This year, we've also had a big focus on technical training and education. As many of you have been participating in, which has been wonderful, is our weekly Wednesday webinar series. This is a hyper-technical set of sessions by our engineers. So there's no marketing, there's no salesy info in there. It's all about using the product, how you can get more out of your investment with Cisco and, of course, with us. Those are led by our Ninja engineers who you all work with on a very frequent basis. So those have been great to see. So we've got 3 coming up. Again, they're every Wednesday. Starting next week, we're going to give our guys this Wednesday off from a webinar. So the next one will be June 10th, which is kind of a recap of what's new in 12.15. And then, of course, we have some hunt group and capacity stuff coming in the following Wednesdays to come. We've also been investing a significant amount of time in our knowledge base. We know many of you are sharp and like to do things on your own before asking for help, which is exactly how most of us are, and actually how I am. So we've been investing a lot in our knowledge base and really producing as much content as we can. And it's always challenging to keep up to date as we change our screen look and feel and our UI. But we've really been trying to produce as many articles and soon to be videos on how to use our product, how to do one-off little things, and how to do large things as well. And then lastly, of course, we have a new offering which we introduced this year, which is our Ninja Enhanced Consulting Services, NECS. And this is what we've been listening to many of our customers on, and what we've kind of heard is that you guys are busy. And as much as we try to make our product as easy to use as possible, some of you just don't have as much time as you'd like to get all the analytics and all the data or all the setup that you might need to do. And so we've begun offering this in an introductory way, and now we're kind of releasing it more to the masses, which is basically letting us do more for you. whether that's building reports, configuring dashboards, doing things that our Ninja engineers are happy to help you with today, but in a significantly more regular and large scale way. So for more information on that, you can obviously go to verify.com/ninjas as shown in the bottom right there, or talk to your account manager and be happy to kind of talk further about how that works. So on that, I'm going to go ahead and dive into 12.15 and kind of show everyone kind of a live view as to some of the notable changes that were just in this product that was released just last week. So this is kind of dubbed our dashboard release. There's several dashboard bells and whistles here that we're happy to have out there. Many of which are around the appearance of the dashboard, which is something that we get continual feedback on. So the first thing you can see at the top here is we have 2 widgets. This is our new announcement widget. This is a brand new widget that you can simply add to any dashboard. And instead of picking a CUCM or a CCX feature, you pick an application feature. And right now we have a single type. That's the announcement. I'm not going to create a new one. I'll show you the one we already have. And this is something that you can show static text on your dashboard. We've got a lot of requests for this over the past several months, or really since our dashboard feature was released in version 12.0. And this gives you the ability to have text scrolling across the screen, just like the blue one in the upper left or the static text in the upper right. So whether it's an all hands meeting, some sort of weather or announcement you want to make, or a congratulations to your call center team, whatever text that you can fit in here. It's very easy to modify this. Let's go ahead and look at this one here. I can make, this is my text that I have scrolling. I can choose whether to scroll it horizontally from right to left. And if I do that, I can choose the speed. The length of the message does impact how you perceive the speed to be. So pay close attention to that. Or I can have the actual message wrap lines if it needs to, based upon, of course, the size of the widget. I can choose the icon, what color I want it to be, so on and so forth. I can also change the appearance. So, if this is, in often cases, one of our dashboards is up on a screen on a wall where you have users that are maybe 10, 20, 30 feet away. So I can certainly make this a lot bigger. You can drag and drop. If this font's not quite big enough for you, of course, you can change that with the appearance menu item here. I can change the font size. I can make that pretty much as big as I want, or as small as I want as well. So that's our new announcement widget. So hopefully you all find that pretty easy to use, pretty self-explanatory there in terms of how to set that up. One of the other big changes, which is something that we've been working on for a while, is the conversion, or really the evolution of what was our previously named top N widget, is now our grouping statistics widget. This is the ability to have a widget for CUSIM CDR data that shows, for the groupings you have, one or now multiple statistics in whatever order you want. But before, we had grouping stats. So here I have my terminating CUCM end users. And again, these are pulled from CUCM, so these names are always going to be up to date with what you had in CUCM. In this case, this shows how many calls each one of them received. We took this idea and we expanded upon this, because maybe you want to see more than this. Maybe you want to see the ring durations, or how many calls connected or were abandoned or forwarded. So automatically, as part of upgrading to 12.5, you'll see your widgets look the same. And now you'll have the ability, though, to add additional statistics if you want to, and of course, change the order. So that is going to be done down here. Here's the different statistics you have. As many of you are familiar with, hopefully, with our CDR analytics, you can pick from over 100 statistics options to show for devices, for users. Those are what we call groupings. You can filter them down. So if I'm looking for ring duration, I can do that here. So I picked about 5. You can, of course, pick as many as you want. Make the widget as large or as narrow as you need to be. And you're going to see those refresh for each one of your groupings, in this case, end users there. What you'll see here is these are the same widget effectively. They have the same 2 columns, but you notice this widget on the right is actually much shorter. And this is the third improvement with this release, which is the appearance and vertical spacing that we'll let you configure now. So before, if you had, in this case, 6 different groupings, you're kind of locked into this size. This widget took up about this much space. And that was something that we felt really needed to be improved, just so you can show more with either the same or less real estate on your screen. So we added this appearance option that used to be called font size, and now it's been expanded to appearance. You can do this on a per widget basis or on a dashboard wide basis, meaning any widget that's following these settings will automatically get changed for all of them. And what you can do is choose from either normal, compact, or tiny vertical font spacing. And what that's going to do is it's going to shrink the amount of vertical space or height that the content needs within each widget. So you can effectively make each widget smaller or shorter if you'd like to, to actually do more with less. So let's go and make this tiny, compact, normal, right? So you can, it's all about personal preference here. So what's nice is different people can view the same dashboards or the same widgets with different visibility settings and different appearance settings. So just, I have a pretty high resolution monitor, but if someone doesn't, we can have totally different settings representing the exact same data. The last improvement for the dashboard and actually for CDR as well is we've added monthly metrics. So as part of our time of day windows, we can do more than just by hour or by day of the week. So we've actually added a month-over-month time period type. So this is something that you can do for both reporting and for widgets itself. And what it's going to do is actually show your stats for each month that you have. So in this case, the month and the year. So January 2020 would be different than January 2021, and so on and so forth. So Dan, any questions I can stop here and possibly answer?
Yeah, we actually got a few questions. Would like to get those in at this point. So kind of a multi-part question, but Laura asks, is the current version of Variphy, so 12.1.5 that you're seeing, is it compatible with CCM and CCX 12.5? So
Absolutely.
Laura, yeah, absolutely there.
Absolutely.
Part
In fact, actually, Cisco just gave us the thumbs up on their compatibility testing with 12.5 as well. So we've got the extra stamp of approval, if you will.
Yeah, excellent point. Thanks for noting that, Lane. Second part question to that is from Beth, is how quick is the upgrade process? They're on 12.0 and they'd like to bump up to 12.1.5.
Sure. So we purposefully, dating back to our early days where, I was releasing a new version sometimes several times a week. Backward compatibility is huge for us. And while we're happy to assist you with any upgrade, it's certainly not something that we think is always necessary. And so our upgrades are designed to be as simple as possible. In fact, you'll see one later on today. Generally speaking, we can get those done in a couple of minutes, really as fast as you can download the installer. So you can absolutely go from, in your case, 12.0 or even an older version straight up to 12.1.5. We certainly recommend that. That's going to save you some time.
Excellent, thank you. You did mention NECS, our new Ninja Enhanced Consulting Services. Robert wants to know if there's any SLA or what is the SLA response time for that?
Sure. So you kind of get a dedicated team who's most importantly familiar with you, your organization, your installation, your environment, your data. It's nice. It's really helpful to have the same engineer, or at least the same team of engineers who built your last set of reports or did whatever services you need previously, whether it was yesterday or the month prior, being the same ones. We call that our continuity of care. We also have expanded service hours where if you reach out to us via a dedicated email address, we're going to get back to you with our continued response time, but within a wider window during the day. So we'll have a data sheet or landing page that we can send out to anybody who needs more information.
Excellent. One more additional question regarding the upgrade process. Nick wants to know if we recommend upgrading to the latest version. And of course, I could answer that. We always do recommend latest and greatest version, even in point releases. There are fixes within the application, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a major release to upgrade. We'll definitely recommend upgrading. If you're on a 12.1.1, we'll absolutely recommend an upgrade to 12.1.5 as well. Okay, and then one last question here is from Terry. Terry would like to know if the announcement widget that you just talked about will show up on all dashboards.
Sure. So we what I didn't show you guys was we have two types of message sources. What you saw here was my widget was showing my message, and maybe that's private to what I want to see. We do have a different source, and that's called the application. So this is the ability to set a single message and have any widget which is configured to use that source of the message, the application source, and that will pull it down automatically. So if I have 10 different dashboards with 10 different widgets or 20 different widgets, what have you, all configured to point and use that same application message source, whatever I type in here will automatically get pushed out to each of those dashboard instances instantaneously. So there's no need to go into each one of the individual dashboards and change that text on that widget. This will get pulled and synchronized automatically the moment you hit save.
Excellent. Great response. Thanks, Lane. That is all we have for now.
No sweat. Thank you, Dan. Yeah, to kind of piggyback on that comment about staying up to date, it's something we definitely recommend doing. As you see in our kind of release structure here, we generally strive for a new product release roughly every 6 weeks. As you can see here, we've actually released a new version every single month. We're not yet sure if there'll be one in June, as we don't have a 12.16 planned. 12.2 is something that's in the works. We have a fairly major release. The first one this year was 12.1, and again, that'll be 12.2. We do about 2 major releases per year, sometimes 3. But of course, in between those, we do a series of service releases, and they're not always just bug fixes. Sometimes they're minor improvements. We have a kind of a philosophy here where we don't want to have one feature or one improvement hold up 4 more when they really don't need to be related at all. So our goal is to get these improvements and fixes out as quickly as possible, with the caveat that sometimes there is something that's too fast. We recognize that many of you have change management windows and policies and other things to do, frankly, where you don't want to be upgrading our software 3 times a week like we used to have, or even once a week. So we've kind of settled in on roughly a 6-week, sometimes it's more often, sometimes it's once a month cadence, where you guys can certainly stay up to date as quickly as you can. I think we've done a much better job lately as trying to notify and send these blast emails out to let you know one's available. Generally speaking, as you've all experienced with support, if we see that you're running a version that's pretty old back that we think would benefit you, we're going to recommend upgrading you, kind of from the get-go, right? So that's always been super helpful. All right, with that, let's go into what are we working on next. We kind of covered the green here on the left, what's just shipped in 12.15. 12.2 has got some nice cornerstones or what features and improvements for what's going to happen. We're targeting a early fall, a September EFT. Those are estimates right now. Software takes the time it does. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower. So we're kind of going to keep our field and our team here updated week to week as we get closer. And of course, I'll talk about some stuff that's on the horizon coming up soon. Don't peek at that slide just yet. So 12.2, what's coming down the pipe? So one of the big features of 12.2 is what we're calling our history report repository. This is the ability for the product to save every report for CDR or CCX that you attempt to run. Why would you want this? Well, let's say you're running very common reports that other people want to access. While it's fairly easy to rerun that report every time, that can be resource intensive and just not necessary. So the first and foremost is you'll be able to re-download reports from time to time for a report that's been run. So you can simply come to this page, you can see the report history that you've ran, re-download it, and that's different than regenerating it. That's actually just re-downloading it. These reports will be saved to the file system, which of course will take up disk space. So we're going to have a disk space management feature built in where you can configure exactly how much disk space, whether it's 1, 2, let's say 3 gigs or 500 megs, what have you, the system should use for CDR versus CCX history repositories. On a nightly basis, the product will automatically purge any reports that it needs to kind of keep you within that disk space allotment, oldest being first. The second thing is you can kind of track your user activity. How much is are these users using the product and reports, and what reports are they running? As admin users, you'll be able to see and actually download, of course, the actual reports that people are running. You can filter those by different users, the report name, the time period in which they ran the report, and of course the clusters that were ran on. So this would be applicable to both CCM and CCX. So, Dan, any particular questions here I can pause and answer?
Not just yet.
All righty, we'll keep moving. Okay, second cornerstone is UCCX time period analytics. This has been a big one. This is something that we knew we had to do. We got our UCCX baseline reporting out last year in version 12.0, and we've been working and thinking about this one ever since. So this is our ability to take all those metrics that we're able to do and now break them down by time interval, whether that's day of the week, hour of day, month, week of the year, quarter hour a day, which is every 15 minutes if that's what you want. And we can do this on TSQs and agent reports. You can have that in tabular or graphical format here. So here's a graphical format of a chart showing, the number of calls that are handled, abandoned versus aborted for a particular CSQ per hour of the day. So very flexible, much like we have in our wallboarding today for CDR, a little bit of this as well for CCX. So highly anticipated, excited to kind of show this out. And this will be certainly something that we're going to have an EFT for as well to get certainly all of your feedback on. Third cornerstone is something quite interesting, actually. It's what we're calling our custom label set. For those of us who go back to the early days of Cisco IPT and call manager in those terms, the words calling party number, date time origination, final called party number versus original called party number, those are second nature to me. That's just because I've been in this space for so long, but we totally recognize that those aren't second nature to perhaps many of you and definitely many of people in your organizations who are looking for reporting for analytics. And so, while those Cisco terms make a lot of sense to us, we're going to give the ability to have you guys, or certainly we can help with this as well, create what we call custom label sets. And these are the ability to change the entire output, whether it's how the search results look in our UI versus the widgets you see versus the reports that you generate. You can change all the labels and headers. So if you don't like the word calling party number like I'm showing here, you can change that to from extension or whatever makes sense for your organization. Maybe you already have your own terminology for your call center, for your sales operations. So you can kind of override all those default labels and settings. The values, of course, will still remain the same, but the labels that they're referenced will be entirely what you want them to be. So you can configure multiple custom label sets for CCM or for CCX. And that way you have different users who maybe want to see the same data, but see it differently labeled. You can absolutely do that. You'll be able to apply these in the UI. Here's an example of the words from extension in the UI. In current versions today, you would see calling party number. That's the actual extension or phone number that originated the call. You can have that appears whatever you want. If you hovered over it, you'd see that it is a custom label, and you'd see what the default label is just for referencing and troubleshooting purposes, of course. And then for reporting, these are going to be applied, not kind of attached to the report itself. So what this means is this gives you the ability for multiple users to run the exact same report, but have different outputs based upon the actual label set that they use. So you can have a highly technical report and a highly non-technical report based off the same thing for different user audiences, which is certainly going to be quite nice. For all the different formats, whether it's CSV, HTML, PDF, et cetera, whether you email, download it, doesn't matter to us, it's all the same. So we're pretty excited about these three cornerstones. There's a lot more that's going to go into these as well, but we actually like to focus on cornerstones because these really drive how soon or how far off we are with actually getting all this work done. So we kind of base our timing estimates on our cornerstones, which generally comprise about 60 to 70% of every release. And then we have another, 30 to 40% of bug fixes and other more moderate improvements that we'd love to mention, but we just don't have enough time to quite do that. So.
Yeah, Lane.
Dan, any questions for? Oh, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to squeeze in here. We do have a few questions regarding our 12.2 content. Will has a question regarding our time period analytics for CCX. Will wants to know if we plan on doing chart graphics for these intervals, or is it just going to be the table summary similar to what we have today?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, both tables or charts. Obviously, there's a need and a case for both. Sometimes you have reports that you want tabular data. Sometimes you'll want charts. Sometimes you'll want both, and you can absolutely do that. You'll be able to reorder those as you want. So you can have a nice little colorful chart that shows per hour of the day or per day of the week charted with a different color for different statistics. So yes, absolutely, tables or charts or both.
Okay, excellent. And the next question comes from Liz. Liz wants to know if the custom headers that you spoke of, are they going to be globally defined, or do you have to define them per user?
Yeah, yes. So you can define them per user or per group of user. This way you can restrict, if you want, users to only be able to see and use a certain label set only. Let's say you have a non-technical user base who really wants to see the most layman terms possible. You can configure a single label set for all of those users, either assign that label set to those user accounts individually or as a group, which is what I would recommend. And that way, when they log in and use the product and get their reports, they will see all those label sets that you've designated for them to use. For other users who want more flexibility, more power, you can give them access to multiple label sets if you want to, and they can pick and choose the one that makes sense for them.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And as expected, right, we have a flood of questions coming in. regarding future development questions. I wanted to hold off on those until you presented the next couple slides. And then I know time is of the essence here. So whatever we don't get at now, I just will remind everyone, we do have a Q&A, final Q&A at the end of the session that we could always discuss these at the end too. So Lane, that is it for now. Thank you, sir.
Right on. Thanks, Dan. All right. So what else are we working on? Beyond 12.2, this is a huge initiative that I am very, very excited, happy, proud, a lot of other adjectives I can use here to be kind of announcing officially for the first time, which is a cloud offering. Obviously, cloud's a big thing. We've all heard it. We're all using it in some capacity. And so with our CDR analytics product being entirely on-prem today, we're excited to announce that we are working on a cloud version that will be rolling out to some initial beta customers as early as this fall. How's it going to work? Well, you're going to have a collector running on your premises still. It's a lightweight box application running on our OVA. Why would you want this? Well, a couple of reasons. For one, you're going to have hopefully our existing other features running on premise, some of which are just not meant to be cloudified, if you will, like our remote phone control, change management, macros. Some of these features, wallboards, for example, are just not ones that are meant for cloud because of the real-time connectivity and the security. You know, if you want to do remote phone control, we're not yet sure it's really ideal to have our product running that from the cloud, tying back into your environment. So we're going to have what we call a collector, which is going to be just an additional piece of software that's running in our existing application. And that's going to serve as a relay point, if you will, between your CUCM clusters and our cloud operations. That's going to pull both the CDR and CUCM data that hopefully many of you have come to rely on. We would rather not have you point your CUCM billing servers up to a cloud. So we're going to go through what we're calling our Variphy collector to be that kind of more secure and reliable relay point, if you will. We're not going to host this ourselves, meaning it's not going to run in a garage at one of our houses. It's going to be we're partnering up with Google Cloud as a top-tier FedRAMP hosting provider. Let's let the pros be the pros, and we're going to focus on what we do best. We're really not hardware people, to be honest. Pricing, that'll be based upon really how much data you have on an annual basis and how much you want us to house. So we'll certainly get into that if you're interested, and we can talk about that with our AMs. But the UI and the product will actually be the same. So the same look and feel you have now as the on-premises will be exactly the same as the cloud version as well. In fact, if you wanted to run it in a hybrid, which I think we'll do for beta purposes, just to make sure we have consistency with the on-prem data capturing we're doing versus the cloud, that will certainly be possible. And this will begin to leverage a more distributed architecture. So with something called horizontal scaling, right, we'll be able to break out our architecture of how our software is written today into separate, distinct services. And this will give us the ability to more reliably scale how many reports you want to be able to run at the same time, or how many different things we want to be able to do concurrently. And by breaking these out into different services, we can use cool things like containers and some other technical stuff, which I won't get into, to kind of better distribute that load, particularly in a hosted environment. So really excited about that. And of course, because now we're on the back end of this, so to speak, with on the cloud side, this pairs perfectly with Ninja Consulting Services. So if there's things that you'd like some additional help with us to do, we don't have to worry about VPNing in or remotely controlling via WebEx your server by having access to the cloud directly. We can do some things for you. So we're certainly open to discussing that with you as well. Dan, any cloud-oriented questions I can talk about?
Yeah, one hosted question that comes in from Luke. Luke is asking if the collector is mandatory. We like and rely on local connectivity to be able to communicate with our on-prem call manager. Does your hosted model not allow that?
Sure. So it is going to be mandatory because there is just some information that that your CDR doesn't have. And one of the differentiating features between our product analytics and that of any other one in our space that perhaps many of you have tried or even switched from is our ability to actually pull out the real-time information from CUCM and marry it up with your CDR data. And that includes things like your device pool names, your departments, your end users, your custom attributes, which are synced up with your call manager via Active Directory. All those sorts of things are actually not stored in your CDR. And we actually take the extra step to gather that from your CUCM upon request. Let's say when you're running a search or running a report or rendering your dashboard widget, we're taking that CDR data, we're figuring out which users those go with and pulling that information out of CUCM and showing it to you. So for that reason alone, as well as security, we're going to have this collector being that relay point. So this collector will still do what it's doing today. It's going to go pull that CUCM information via Axle, which of course is Cisco's API. It's going to pull that via a sync, which many of you already use, and that sync's going to get uploaded to our cloud on a regular basis, so that we always have the most current or relatively current data with which to work with.
Excellent. Thank you, Lane. That is all the questions regarding hosted.
Cool. All right. Onward and upward. So I talked a little bit about this. We have a new architecture that we're beginning to employ for both cloud and eventually for on-prem. This will be the ability to kind of what we call get to our next level of being enterprise class, and that is priority queuing and distributed services. So as part of our 12.2 feature, which I talked about with our history repository, you'll be able to see and re-download reports that have been run. Next step towards that will be priority queuing, which is, well, you know, if you want to be able to run 5 reports at the same time, what happens to that 6th or 7th or 8th? So you'll be able to have it as admins, you'll be able to have a priority queue with which you can operate and change up and have your report, let's say, go to the top of the queue because you might need something quicker than somebody else might. And so as admins, you should have that ability, as well as separating these services out. So rather than you know, having a single server that does all this stuff, we'll have the ability via virtual servers or even containers to do more things in parallel by pulling out these services. We're really excited about that. I know this is a pretty technical slide, or it can get a lot more technical if we had more time, but this is something that you'll see begin to be employed first with our cloud and then for our on-prem coming in the next you know, few releases here. And then beyond that, we have what's really on the horizon. So we're always thinking about what's next, and we're always listening, and we've got a ton of feedback from many of you on this call and many others who weren't able to join about what's important to them, what other Cisco products are they using, what other visibility and analytics are they really lacking. And so I'm excited to also announce that Cube will be our next Cisco product on the collaboration space that we're going to be able to be supporting for call analytics. It's a cornerstone of many of your installations, I'm sure, and that's something that we'll be working on as soon as we can here following 12.2. Jabber has been one of the Jabber chat analytics specifically, as we can already do voice for Jabber. Jabber chat analytics has been something that we've heard a lot about, so that's something that is high on our horizon as well. And Cisco obviously is continuing to innovate with WebEx and cloud and other products as well, Contact Center Enterprise. So those are things that we're still prioritizing, and we're figuring out how we can do more of those at the same time. So there's some question marks there, as I'm not going to overpromise a particular order or a particular date of those. But those are things that are definitely on our horizon we're thinking about. We're going to continue to ask you all about what's important to you, what's important next, how can we help. For some of these, we're honestly a little bit limited to what's technically feasible. You know, we're kind of at the mercy as a Cisco partner of what data we can pull and how those APIs can and should be used. So in some cases, there are things that we'd like to be able to do that we just quite can't yet. And then, of course, we're listening and we're hearing that there are some hybrid scenarios beginning to take shape and have already happened here. So we recognize that although we're very Cisco focused, they're not the only manufacturer who's out there. So we're listening to cases about Microsoft and other potential vendors in terms of how we can help there. So I'm not going to say we're going to support Microsoft next year per se, but it's something that we're certainly thinking about, listening to. We'll ask many of you on, and you know, certainly lots to do, and I think there's a lot more value that we can continue to add here. So.
Yep, excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, a lot of timely questions coming in with the last couple of slides that you've shown. So Adama, more of a comment, but says that you need to build next SBC or Cube reporting. Everything is now moving to SIP trunking, so very important. So I'm sure Adama would probably pretty happy to hear that this is one of our
That's great to hear.
Yeah, exactly. The next question comes from Andrew. And I think this is going back to your last slide, talking about distributed modeling. Andrew wants to know if this is going to speed up reports, or will this just allow for more simultaneous reports to be ran?
But certainly the latter. You know, it's one of the goals with horizontal scaling is certainly being able to run more reports in parallel more reliably. You know, you may want to run 5 or 10 or 15 reports at the exact same time, or at least be able to. And so this would be a way, this is a previous slide here, that we can actually support that and help you architect how that's going to work. With regard to running reports faster, that's of course something we always want to do as well. And it's something that's not mentioned in this particular slide is a feature called CDR archiving, which is something that we're actually working on as well. And that's going to be the ability to kind of organize and separate data across different databases, and that'll in effect make many queries potentially faster as well. That's something that we pay close attention to. I certainly don't want reports to take even a second longer than they have to. But at the end of the day, I want them to run and be very reliable, even if they take 5 seconds longer. I'd rather them get delivered to you with 5 nines accuracy. So that's something that we're going to continue to balance, of course, too. So.
Excellent. Thanks, Lane. And I just want to say we are seeing lots of questions coming in about future, product requests. So let's save those for the end of the session Q&A. I know we got a lot more to cover here, but we are logging your questions, and so we'll address those at the end.
All right, that's it on this particular product segment. Who's up for more prizes? Let's kick it back to Annie and Tom in the bar.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the bar. Woo! That was a lot of information, for real. Before we get started and announce 4 more winners, we're going to take a shot. So I want everybody to join us. It's 5 p.m. somewhere. So we're going to be drinking Hennessy, VSOP.
It's not too early. As Tom said, never too early to take a shot. Oh my gosh!
I'm just kidding. Okay, there you go.
Okay. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, everybody. Thank you for joining us again.
Don't worry, we're not driving.
Woo!
Okay, so for the 4 prizes that we're giving away, we're going to be giving away Amazon card, the Alexa Echo, and also the Bose headphone noise cancellation.
Wow, there you go.
All right, and Tom, do you want to do the honor and announce the 2 winners for the Amazon gift cards?
Yes, let's do this. The first winner is Bobby French. Woo!
Amazon gift card
Is Joe Jones. Woo!
All right, and then Alexa, can you announce the winner, please?
The next winner is Durham Gopart-ish. Welcome. Cheers.
And last but not least, okay, headphones, noise cancellation.
The winner is Brian Clark. Woo! Congrats. You in, was it 5 minutes? 5 minutes.
All right, and now I'm going to give it back to Vic and Edgar for the CDR Analytics and 20-minute challenge.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you guys for joining us today. So we've got some fun stuff planned for the next 20 or so minutes here. One of the things that we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to talk a little bit about CDR, and then we're going to go ahead and dive into what we call our 20-minute challenge. My name is Victor Verba. I've been with Variphy for a few years now. Been in the data game for way too long, and below me is my cohort, Edgar. Edgar, you want to say a little bit about yourself there, buddy?
Yeah, of course. But first, I didn't get to take a shot, so I will open up a beer. Just a quick sip for Tom and Annie. Oh, that's delicious. It's hot out here. But hi, everyone. I am Edgar Salazar. I've been part of the Variphy family for close to 6 years now. I started in a tech team, and after about a year, I moved into a solutions engineering role. As of this past January, I am now part of the sales team, serving you as an account manager. I'm super excited to be here today. Thanks for joining us.
So, Edgar, being kind of a little bit on both the account management side now, as well as, formerly being part of the systems engineering team, tell me a little bit about some of the things that people come to you for, when they approach you looking into a solution like Variphy. What are some of the things or the struggles that you're hearing that they come to you with?
Yeah, of course. So many of our customers come to Verify looking for a reliable and easy to use reporting system. The native CUCM reporting solution is quite limited and it's not very easy to use. There are many solutions in the market, but some are too clunky and difficult to manage and usually provide inaccurate data. At Verify, we've truly built a framework that allows all of our end users to build most, if not all, of the reports they need. Vic, maybe you could show us a little bit about what we could do with CDR?
Sure, absolutely. So, the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do, Edgar, is let me go ahead and just bring up something, and I want to get your thoughts on this because this is kind of what we're going to get from Cisco. So, Edgar, tell me a little bit about what we got here. Can you run a report out of that for me?
Is that CDR? CDR,
That
right?
is
That's
CDR.
ugly stuff.
Yeah,
that gives me nightmares sometimes.
It's a little messy. So this is kind of what you're going to be pulling out of Cisco to try to run a report. And this is what we hear from a lot of our customers using, an existing Cisco CDR tool. But you know what? Let me fix this for you, Edgar, and I'm going to simplify it, okay? Let me go ahead and put it in Excel. How's that, Edgar? Does that make it easier to run a report?
It's a little better, but still, I don't like looking at that. It's too much.
All right. So with that in mind, this is why customers are coming to us. They're using things like Cisco CAR or the Cisco reporting tool to try to pull extremely complex information. So just looking at this is a CDR file. This is not cut and dry. There's absolutely nothing simple about this. And I think this is a little bit older of a version Call Manager. But I want to say there's about 130 columns in this record alone, and I almost want to say they might be up to like 136 or right around there with more current versions of Call Manager. So there's nothing about this that is simple. So when customers come to us and they tell us they're using CAR, they're telling us they're using other solutions out there. They're looking at data. It may not be the most accurate thing in the world. I get involved with a lot of proof of concepts. So I'm familiar with that format that we just showed, and I don't like it. It's ugly. Nobody's going to be able to pick out a report out of that, for lack of a better word, I'm sorry, Cisco, garbage. It's just a bunch of lines of information. One piece or one part of those lines does not even necessarily equal a call in general. So one of the first things I always show customers is hunt group reporting. A lot of customers struggle with hunt group reporting, but this isn't necessarily just hunt groups. Could be departments. It could be device pools. One of the benefits of having an application like Verify is you never have to worry about your departments or your device pools or your first names or your last names or all of that information that's in Call Manager but not in CDR. When I pull up a file that looks like this, and there's nothing in here that's pretty or makes it easy to associate, Edgar to a phone call or a management department. The reason being is because that information is not actually in the CDR. So like Lane was saying earlier, one of the benefits of having a system like Verify is we actually just go out to your Call Manager and pull information. So very quickly what I did is I just ran a report for a hunt group. So all of that information that I just showed is readily available and at your fingertips. You'll notice in this report that I'm about to go ahead and kick off of, I'm toggling on something that's called Cradle to Grave. Now, the thing about Cradle to Grave is we take all of this for you and we put it into a report that is going to be legible, it's going to be readable, it's going to be sequential, and it's going to take things like this, where this call right here may be associated to this call right here. That's associated to this call right here. That's associated to this call down here. Well, the benefit of a product like Verify is very simply, all I did was run a report, toggle on what's called Cradle to Grave. I have my first names, I have my last names, and I was able to generate a report that looks like this. Now, all these fields that we're looking at here are user definable. So I get to decide what I want to see. If I want to see first names and last names, if I want to see MAC addresses of phones and things like that. With Verify, you have complete control on what you want to see. But with Cradle to Grave, which is what I toggled on right here, what you're going to notice is that very simply, I took this and I made it this. So you'll notice when I first did my search, I just searched for this guy. That's all I searched for. But by toggling on Cradle to Grave, I actually see what it took for my customer to get to this guy. So I get to see that they went into a call center, or they went into a Unity system. And then from there, they transferred out into a call center. From the call center, I can see that they spoke with Kathy over here for 43 seconds. Kathy then took that call and transferred it into a hunt group. And from the hunt group, I could see that it then got fielded over here by Lindsay, who spoke with this end user for 1 minute and 52 seconds. So very quickly and very easily, we were able to actually just search a single character or a single number, be it maybe a phone number or an extension, or in this case, a hunt group, and pull up sequentially everything that's happening with that. So calls coming into hunt groups and then maybe being transferred back out into UCCX agents. All of that information is at your fingertips with Variphy, and we make it very easy to be able to do that. All I did was toggle on something like Cradle to Grave and go from this to something like this. Now, this looks like it could be a complex system and a very complex implementation. Anybody that's familiar with Variphy, as well as some of our other sessions, knows that the nice thing about Variphy is we are virtually a no maintenance solution. In other words, to be able to pull all of that information, I had to do very little within Variphy to be able to see first names, last names, departments, device pools if I want to add those. So one of the things that we're going to go ahead and do here, Edgar, is we've got a little bit of a challenge. And we're going to make this as fun as possible because that's what people are here for. Nobody wants to sit there and watch me go through this for the next 30 minutes and explain. So everybody that's looking at our screen right now is going to notice my buddy Edgar, he's got something above his head back there. So what that is we're going to call that our Variphy beer bong. What do you think about that, Edgar?
I'm excited. Tell me more.
All right. So what we can do is we've got here what we call our 20-minute challenge at Variphy. That means that we will have a installation done complete within 20 minutes. Now, there's a couple prerequisites that are pretty basic, like you have to have the OVA stood up, or you have to have a functioning system out there somewhere that we can communicate with. It has to have an IP address and things like that. So that way we can talk to it and actually set up the Variphy system. So for our 20-minute challenge, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and complete an implementation for everybody. And if I can't do it within 20 minutes,
Edgar's
that bucket above Edgar's head, he's going to get wet.
No?
So, Edgar, how confident are you in my abilities to install that Variphy system in 20 minutes?
Well, Vic, let me be honest with you. I've known you for, 15 years about? And
Sounds
I have
right,
very little faith in you. I'm kidding. I trust you. Let's see how this goes. Let's give it a shot and see how it goes.
I thought I would change it up just a little bit. And I know maybe you don't want me to, but we're going to do it anyway because I'm the one driving on the screen. So rather than just setting up the Variphy application, what I'm going to do is I've got an OVA set up. I've done nothing to that OVA. We're going to go ahead and actually set up the OVA, set up the call manager, set up Variphy, and we're going to do all of that within 20 minutes.
So we're going to run through the entire installation?
We're going to run through the entire installation.
Oh, you're changing things on me. Okay,
I did. I decided that, you know
what?
I thought the 20-minute challenge would be a little bit too straightforward, so we're going to go ahead and make it a little bit more complicated here. So
fair enough.
All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this ball rolling. I'm going to ask my producer, Dre. Dre, let's go ahead and start that clock. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I need to get into my my ESXi here. So I did do one prerequisite. I actually put the OVA on here because if I didn't, we'd be sitting here for another 10 or 15 minutes waiting for the OVA to just load. I'm going through a VPN. It doesn't go that well sometimes. So we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to log right into our host here, and you're going to notice that I've got a Variphy OVA there. It is not stood up. It is sitting there waiting to be configured. So I created this guy called Variphy Rocks, pretty straightforward. So I'm going to go ahead and just pop right into the console here, and I'm going to open up our remote console. All right. So all I'm doing is just going into an OVA that is deployed. There's no configurations, no settings or anything of that nature in here. It's basically just sitting there ready for us to get going. So here we are, and it is waiting for the console to attach. Geez, sometimes this takes so long, Edgar. Usually, I don't know, buddy. You think we're going to make it?
I'm sweating a little bit.
We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Don't worry, we'll be fine. All right, Edgar, you got those IP addresses for me?
I do. 1.1.1.1.
All right, I thought I would throw that at you. So, all right, let's go ahead and keep going. So this is the screen you're going to see when you open up the OVA console. This is a brand new implementation here. I'm just going to go ahead and click enter to yes. We're going to set up an OVA. Now, first thing we got to do is read the license agreement. All right. So, Edgar, I know this is going to take us a little time because there's a lot of licensing, but I was planning on
Wait a
reading
minute.
this out loud to everybody.
How about we just skip? If you hit tab, I think you can skip to I accept the agreement.
Yeah, you don't want me to read it to you?
I've read it multiple times already.
All right, buddy.
We can skip over it. Yeah.
Okay.
Skip over
All
it.
right. All right. We'll go ahead and skip over it. So let's go ahead. And the next thing it's going to ask is, what is our host name? So let's go ahead and plug in a host name here. And we're going to go ahead and...
Victor, hurry up. That's a good host name. Victor, hurry
up. Is
up.
that a good house name? How about we just call this guy Duncan?
Duncan, I like it.
So there we go. We're going to just give this guy a quick name called Duncan. And then we're going to go ahead and say, yes, we want to update our host. Next thing it's going to do is it's going to ask us what time zone that we want. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go scroll down to the U.S. here. All right. And I am in the Central time zone, so we're just going to go ahead and continue with Central. All right. Is our time zone correct? I am in the Central time zone. We're going to stick with this server in the Central time zone. I'm going to go ahead and click yes. If I was in Pacific or Eastern, or maybe I'm in Central and the server's somewhere in Pacific, I can go ahead and keep that there. The purpose of this guy is really to kind of keep things in sync, like purges, reports, so that way the server knows what time to go ahead and keep things running. So next thing we're going to do is it's going to ask us for our NTP server. Anything you have in here, if you have a local NTP server, you could go ahead and plug that guy in. If you wanted to use ntp.org, you could go ahead and plug in something like that, as long as you have connection to the outside world. In our case, I'm just going to go ahead and plug in 8.8.8.8.8. There we go. Number lock. There we are. All right, and we are going here. So let me go ahead and click OK there, and it's going to say, hey, do we want to update our NTP server? We most certainly do. Would you like to make some network changes? We most certainly would. We need to give this guy an IP address. One of the nice things about Variphy is we are going to try to find an open IP address, but you're probably going to have to change. You probably have got something worked out with your network folks where there's a certain IP address. In my case, we're actually going to use 181s here. So this guy came up with an open IP address that is our IP address. Next thing you'll notice is /24 at the end. So we're not asking for your subnet incomplete. You don't have to come in here and key the 255.255.255.0. We're just going to use the CIDR, and we do have a 255.0, so we're going to stick with 24. And it's going to ask us for our gateway. And again, we'd like to try to auto assume as much as possible. If your gateway is different, you just change it, but ours is the .30.1. Next thing we're going to go ahead and do is ask for a DNS server. In our case, we're going to go ahead and get rid of the 1.1. And like I said, we try to make the best guess possible. So we'll go ahead and keep our 30.18 in here and click OK. And that's it. So Variphy right now.
I win.
No. What's that, Edgar?
Oh, did I win? Are we done?
No.
I thought we were done.
We're still going, buddy. We're still going. So basically what we've done at this point is we configured the Variphy virtual appliance. Really nothing else we need to do. We just need to give this guy an IP address, and we, for the most part, never have to come back in here. But there's a couple more steps, so you're not out of the water yet. Let's go ahead, and now we're going to go ahead and complete our Variphy implementation. So let's see. Should we go ahead and adjust the call manager, or should we go ahead and adjust Variphy first, Edgar? What do you think? Where should we start?
The call manager.
All right, buddy. All right. I think you're getting nervous. So I'm going to go ahead. Let's go ahead. I'm going to pop into our call manager over here, and I am going to a version 12 call manager, 12.5 call manager, and I'm going to go ahead and log into this guy. And we do want to log into as an administrator because we are going to have to go ahead and create a couple roles here. All right, so first thing first, I'm getting logged into my call manager over here, and essentially what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and check some system settings. First thing I want to do is I want to make sure that CDR is turned on. So I'm going to go over to service parameters here and pop right into our publisher. Now, if you have subs, there is a setting that you're going to want to check on your subs also, and I'll talk about that in a second. So there I am. I'm choosing my publisher. I'm going to go to my call manager, and this is going to bring up a series of settings here. So from here, I want to make sure that CDR enabled is true. This is the guy that's actually going to go ahead and send the CDR and allow the CDR to be generated. Now, this is not an enterprise-wide parameter. So if you do have subs, you're also going to want to repeat this process with your subs to make sure that your subs are sending CDR as well. Another important feature that I always urge people to turn on is to log CDR with 0 duration. Reason being is part of Verify, like we just showed, has the ability to do cradle to grave. Well, that cradle to grave doesn't get magically put together. There's a lot of pieces within different CDR sets that we use to try to match cradle to grave. Some of those are 0 duration calls. So things like auto reroutes from hunt groups or route points, a lot of those will come over with 0 duration, but we need these to be able to formulate the CDR. So definitely want to turn on 0 duration call flags. Right? Next thing we want to be able to do is we want to go down to our call diagnostics here. So we're going to enable call diagnostics when CDR is true, but we also want to flip these two guys to true. Reason being, and why these two are important, and a lot of these are off on Call Manager, is if you're using things like hunt groups, this is going to access to really allow us to see the extensions answering those hunt group calls and not just reiterate the hunt group. So we'll still be able to show, end user first names and last names, but it's always nice to be able to see the extension that those calls are being answered on. So we want those guys to be true as well. Now these guys right here, you're going to notice are cluster-wide parameters. So once we set this once here, you don't have to worry about this on your subs. The only one you have to worry about on your subs are these two guys here. All right. So let's go ahead and get that saved. Now, the next thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to actually set up the call manager. So we're going to get ready to blast out some data to this guy. So I'm going to pop over to user management screen. So from here, I'm going to go over to my access control group, and we're going to create an access control group that's got a series of about 7 roles. So first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and click add new, and we're going to go ahead and create a Verify group. All right, pretty straightforward so far. And I think we're doing pretty good on time here, Edgar. You still feeling confident?
Yes.
All right.
Very confident.
All right, buddy. So now that we have our group created, now we need to give it some roles. So I'm just going to pop over to assign role to access group. And we're going to give this guy some roles here. So we need to give this guy, like I said, a series of about 7 roles. So once this guy loads up, we're going to go ahead and take a look at what those are. All right. So now all of these roles are not necessary just for CDR. There are a series of about 3 roles that are required for CDR. But the reason I'm adding these is a lot of times we do proof of concepts. So being able to get all of this information in does require the roles, and that's going to give you things like the ability to do remote phone control or macros and really kind of test out some of those features. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add standard Axle API access. Next thing we're going to do is standard CCM admin users. And then from there, we're going to go down to our CTI options. We want to have standard CTI, allow control of all devices, transfers, and rollovers. Next thing we're going to do is standard CTI enabled. And like I said, if you're doing just CDR, we need to be able to have just a few of those roles. And everything that I'm doing here is documented in our knowledge base. So step by step, all of these are in our knowledge base. All right, so the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is this is a very important piece because we need this guy, standard serviceability read only. That's Cisco Call Manager serviceability right here. And once we add that, and we are good. So we can take a look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and those are all of our roles there. So now that we've got that created, the next piece we're going to go ahead and do is create our application user. Pretty straightforward. This is the guy that our Verify instance is going to go ahead and utilize to talk to your call manager. So all I'm doing is clicking adding new. I'm going to go ahead and click Verify admin here. We're going to give this guy a name. We're going to give this guy a password. And all right, and there we go. So now we've got that. We've got our time. And let's go ahead and add our access control group. Now, again, this is the guy we just created. This is going to go ahead and allow Verify to communicate with your call manager. And that's going to allow us to pull things like first names, last names, and everything in between. All right, so if I scroll down here, we're going to be able to see that we've got our Verify group. That was the one that we just created. All right, so I think we've got everything covered here. I'm going to go ahead and save this guy. Edgar, how's the weather out there, buddy?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's a little hot though.
Is it?
I think we're down to less than 10 minutes, so maybe keep going.
All right. Don't worry, man.
I really
we're good.
I really like my shirt. I don't want to ruin it.
I think we'll be okay. So, now that we've got the user created, it's pretty straightforward. For the most part, all we have to do right now is set up Variphy, and that's really just kind of plugging in these credentials. I do want to go ahead and do one more thing, though. So because a lot of times we go into proof of concepts, which give you access to all of our tools, I'm going to go ahead and add some device association in here. So for our remote phone control piece, that gives us the ability to remotely control any hard phone. But in order to do that, our application user here has to know who is allowed to control those phones. So you'll notice I came in here, I just punched in begins with SEP, and that's going to bring up all of my hard phones. You can see I only have about 30 of them here. So I'm going to go ahead and check mark these guys, and we're going to add that right into our application user here. So now what you're going to see on the back end is our Variphy admin user. We're going to go back to users. And there we are, Variphy admin, and you're going to notice that we have all those hard phone devices right here.
For customers that are interested in CDR only, they don't need to select every phone, right? This is only for the remote phone control piece?
You're absolutely right. So let me go ahead and if you go to Variphy.com, and this is for anybody out there or anybody thinking about becoming a Variphy customer, if you go head over to our support section over here, you're going to notice that we have our user guides. We also have our knowledge base and things like that. This is also where you're going to go to be able to get to webinars. But from our general start, we have some, general configuration. So here's your quick start guides. Here's CUCM prerequisites. Now, these are all the things that I just covered. So you're absolutely right. When you're talking about just CDR, we only need about 3 of those roles. And those are documented in here when you're going through our quick start guide. And we even got just guides on how to go ahead and deploy the OVA. So everything that I've kind of covered at this point in time is completely documented on our knowledge base. But you're absolutely right, Edgar. Just a few of those roles will cover it if you're just interested in CDR. But like I said, I do urge everybody, if you're going through a proof of concept, take advantage of all the tools. The new DID management and things like that have really taken on. If you have a CCX, why not see what we can bring to the table from your UCCX reporting platform? All right. So now that we've got the user created here, let's go ahead and save this guy, and let's pop over to Variphy. So if you remember back in the very beginning when I was configuring that system, Edgar, do you remember what that IP address was?
1.1.1.1?
No.
Okay.
So I'm going to pop over to 10.20.30.181, and I'm going to use :8080 to get over to the Variphy server. Now, it should come up, and it did. You are a lucky man today, Edgar. All right. So there we are. We are going ahead, and the first thing we're going to do is we need to update our license key. So I'm just going to click on Update License Key, and I'm going to choose a file. So for this, I'm just going to pop over to my desktop here, and I know I've got some webinars folders, and we'll go into Block Party Day 1, and I've got a license key ready to go right here. So very simple to go ahead and get this guy loaded up. I'm going to plug in our handy-dandy login and password. Again, all documented in the knowledge base walkthrough. So now my license key has been updated. Let's go ahead and log into Variphy.
And we're done. I win.
No, not yet. I think we still got. But don't worry, man. Don't worry. I'm pretty sure that I can get this done. Pretty sure. So Variphy is loading up. First thing it's going to do is it's going to come over here, and let's go ahead and we're going to pop right into our call manager section here, and we're going to go ahead and create a cluster. So let's go ahead and get this done, and we should have cluster 1 in here already. By default, it's going to come out of the box with some information. To keep this interesting, Edgar, I'm going to delete this guy, and we're going to start all over again. I know that clock is ticking, and I know you're getting a little bit nervous, but I still think I can make it.
I think it's down to less than 4 minutes, so come on.
All right, we're going to call this guy Getting Soaked. That's going to be the name of our cluster, and then from here, we need to go ahead and pick our IP address of our cluster. This is just your call manager. Now, if you remember when we were doing our application user, we created that Variphy admin user. All right, and we also gave it a password. This is the application user that we created on that previous step. All right, and I think we're doing pretty good so far. I think we're doing, oh, my passwords don't match. See if I can get that.
What was the password? Was it Victor, hurry up? with the V uppercase?
You know what? Did you want me to change it to that? I could go back into call
No,
manager.
this is fine.
Oh,
No, and
just keep going?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
I think,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So with that in mind, now we've got our password in there. We've got our time zone in there. If you needed to change your time zone, we absolutely could. In this case, we can go to U.S. Central. I'm just going to go ahead and keep it U.S. You know what? Maybe I'll go to Chicago. I know it's up here somewhere in the Americans, so we'll go ahead.
U.S. Central probably works. Yeah,
you think so?
I think so. Yeah, why not?
But I'm in Chicago. I prefer to see my own. I prefer to see my own. So next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and keep the cluster here at our standard default. When you first come into this system, you're not going to have to set this. This is going to be all set and really pre-configured for everything you're going to need. Next thing you're going to have here is we've got our cluster. We've got the OVA stood up. The OVA comes pre-packaged with everything we need. So really all we have to do is give this guy a name of a database here. So I think when we originally stood up our OVA, we said that it was, the name of the OVA was Duncan. So we're going to just name our database Duncan Edgar.
Clever.
So there we go. So we've got that ready to go. We've got our database, and from here you can set some purge information. So how long do we want to be able to store the data? 0 months, 1 month, 48 months, whatever the case may be. In this case, we're going through an OVA, proof of concept. I'm going to just trim this down to, 1 month worth of data. So out of the box, this guy's going to come with, just some standard implementation. The size will be a little bit smaller, but the nice thing about this system is, we are completely flexible. If you want to expand your storage, expand your RAM, if you want to go from storing 1 month to storing 5 years, it's very easy to do from the OVA perspective as well as from Variphy. There's really nothing more we need to do. So I think I'm going to go ahead and give this guy a save. And here we go.
And we're done.
So no, not yet. So there's really only one thing I have to do. One, I got to activate this guy. So what this is going to do now is it's going to go out and it's going to go back to the OVA and say, hey, there is no database named Duncan Edgar. Do you want to create that database? I'm going to say yes. Yes, I want to create that database. So it's going to go through. It's going to do everything it's on its own. It's going to look at the OVA. It's going to say, hey, here's your database. And man, we are just about done, Edgar. So now that we've got the database there, we've got Variphy, he's already going and looking for CDR. So he's ready to go. We're ready to almost start running reports, but there's one more thing we've got to do, Edgar.
You're going to have to hurry up. The producer's sending us 1 minute, so please hurry.
That's it, 1 minute? So, well, man, yeah. I'm pretty sure I could still do it. Maybe. All right. Maybe not. All right. So the only thing left to do, Edgar, is really we just need to set up the billing server. So all I do for that is pop into my call manager. I go to Cisco Unified Serviceability. And then all I'm going to do is set up what's called the billing server. Now, a lot of people come to me and be like, we don't want to do billing. Why do I have to set up a billing server? It's not actually for billing. It's just a naming convention. So I pop over to CDR management over here, and I click Add New. So from there, all I'm going to do, I'm going to put in the login and password.
Oh, no. Hurry, Dick.
And then I'm going to put in that cluster. And there it is. And that's that cluster. So as soon as I hit this add button, the system is done. The implementation is complete. There's really nothing more I would need to do from an implementation. Uh-oh.
What are you waiting for? Click the button.
What? Just click the button?
Yeah, just click that. Yeah, that one.
This one?
One click. Yes, that one.
Oh, hold on.
Oh,
is it working? No?
Doesn't seem like it. Try it again. Double click.
Oh, there we go. Okay, all right.
There we go. I win.
From that perspective, we are almost done. There's one more thing that we would have to do, Edgar, to make sure that we completed an implementation. Edgar, are you still there, buddy?
I think I'm losing you. Vic?
Edgar?
Can you hear me, Vic?
Edgar, I still have to run reports, Edgar.
Vic, I think I lost you.
Oh, no.
Oh, well.
Edgar. So, last but not least, we are making this as fun as we can. So there's a lot of banter, a lot of talking back and forth. Long and short of it is we really wanted to get Edgar covered in beer, and that was really the whole goal. Besides being able to show how easy this is from an implementation, we can roll through this whole thing in about, 10, 15 minutes, but that's it. From that point, you've got a full implementation. You have reportability. You have the ability to see your first names and last name, run reports on device pools and things like that. And that's it from an implementation perspective. So, hey, I really appreciate Edgar being a great sport. And I thought we could have done this, buddy. I thought we could have done it.
It's all right. Maybe next time. Hey, Bud, quick question for you. So
Yeah.
everything looked very easy. What happens if one of our customers or prospects gets stuck in the process?
Sure.
There's support, right? We support these evaluations.
Absolutely, 100%. Every evaluation that somebody goes through is going to come with an SE. So you will have a systems engineer dedicated for you to be able to help you build reports, help you go through an implementation, do any kind of upgrades, and walk you through the process. So you never have to worry about, am I being supported? Who do I need to reach out to? You've got an AM and an SE dedicated to your system throughout the entire proof of concept.
Fantastic. And if anything goes wrong, we're going to be posting Victor's cell phone number down here. Producer, can we do that? Post his cell phone at any time. Day or night.
Call forward.
Well, sir, I am a man of my word. I like this Shiner, though. It's one of my favorite beers, so I'm going to take a little sip. And I'm not going to use that one. Let's take something else, something from the cooler, something that's nice and cold. My second favorite one, a Texas lager. I'm going to use this one. So let's adjust my screen. I will fill up my contraction, and let's do it.
Go for it, buddy.
Oh, man. I'm going to open it up. Can you still see me? Hopefully I don't fall. Whoa. All right, I'm pouring. I'm pouring. Some for you, some for me. A little more for you.
Oh, I love it.
A little more for me. Maybe a little more. Oh, it's cold. I hurt my teeth. All right, Vic.
Here goes, buddy.
You know what? Let me take off my shirt. I really like my avocado shirt. And I don't want to ruin the shirt. Oh. Plus, I'm wearing my second favorite shirt down here. Well, I should say my least favorite shirt. You see that? See what that is? It's for you, Tom. All right, here we go. I'll take off my glasses. And I'm just going to hit this right here and kind of hope for the, oh, mother of pearl, that's cold. Oh, it's going to go there.
You are a sport, buddy. You are a sport. I'll give you that.
I got to tell you, my mic got wet, so hopefully you can still hear me. But gosh, was that refreshing. I needed that. Hey, Vic, you know what? One more thing. I did notice as you were doing the installation that in your server there, you're running Variphy version 12.1.4.
You did.
Our latest one is 12.1.5. Let's have another quick challenge. Yes, another challenge.
All right.
Can you upgrade that server in less than 5 minutes?
Okay. All right. You know what? Challenge accepted, buddy. Challenge accepted. Now, what's this? What if I make it?
What if you make it? Tell you what, I already told you what two of my favorite beers are.
Okay.
If you make it, I will ship you 6-pack of each. How does that sound?
I love it. I love it. All right. That sounds good. And I tell you what, if I don't make an upgrade, a complete upgrade in 5 minutes, I will go ahead and do the same for you, buddy. I will send you a couple 6-packs of beer. How's that sound?
Let's do it. I love it.
All right. So you know what I'm going to do is to make sure that we have the best. I have the best advantage possible. I'm going to get into my jump box here, which is on our network. It's just going to make transferring the file over to the server a little bit faster. So first thing I'm going to do, let's go ahead and start. I'm going to go to verify.com, and I'm going to go ahead and sign in here. And I have a login. If you don't have a login, don't worry. Reach out to your account manager. Reach out to just our support and get your account number. And you can go ahead and register at verify.com. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in with my login credentials here. And once I'm in there, I'm going to go straight to product downloads. Pretty straightforward. There's some questions that we like to ask here. As you know, Lane and Danny had both talked about, a lot of what we build is based on what our customers are looking for and what they're asking for. So we always like to try to update this to get feedback from our customers. But for this particular instance, I'm going to go ahead and just pop right over to the Linux OVA, and I'm going to download this guy. So you'll notice I am not downloading the OVA again. I am just going to go ahead and download the 12.1.5 Linux installer. Now, I'm going to download this guy. Download usually goes pretty quick, so not too bad, 7 seconds. Download's going real fast. So I'm confident that I'm going to be able to make this, Edgar. So now that I've got that, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up some type of file transfer service. Could be WinSCP, FileZilla. In my case, I'm going to use FileZilla. So for that, now I'm just going to do is 10.20.30.181. Now that is our OVA IP address. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to punch in the login. All right. And I'm going to punch in the password. This is not the same password that we set up in Call Manager. This is the password that we use to log in and talk to the OVA. This information, again, is documented in our help section there. So I'm going to do quick connect. It's going to ask me about some key information. I'm going to plow right through that. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this right into our Verify folder here. And I'm going to drop that in here. So I got my downloads, and we can see there is our guy. Let's make sure that is 12.1.5, and I'm just going to scoot that guy over there. So pretty straightforward process. We can see that guy is transferring very quickly. Next thing I'm going to do, once that guy finishes up, and Edgar, I think you're sending me some beer, buddy. I got a feeling you're going to be sending me some beer. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a session. I could have just as easily gone into my ESXi and just went into a console. Same concept. I'm going to go ahead and open up PuTTY because a lot of times the folks that we're working with, they don't have access to the full console. So I'm just going to use PuTTY to get over there. I'm going to go to the IP address again, the Verify server. I'm going to use port 22. And, you know, right now I'm doing this on the Linux box. If this was a Windows box, all I'm going to do is download this onto the Windows machine and just click and run. And it's a normal installer that people are used to seeing. So from here, I'm just going to go ahead and punch in the login, punch in the password, and there we are. So now I just have to navigate over to that directory, and we'll go opt.
So we said if you go over, you send me beer, right?
I will send you beer. I don't think we're going over, buddy. I don't think we're going over.
I meant to ask you a question. So we've been in quarantine for a while now, and I've been growing a beard. Do you think I should keep it?
No, not at all, man. No, not at all. Not at all.
I think shave it off. What should I do with it?
You're trying to distract me, Edgar. I know you are. I know you are.
No,
so I don't think it's going to work, man. I still think I'm going to be able to make this. So right here is again our disclaimer, and this time, you know what, Edgar, I'm going to skip right over it just because I want.
I think we should read it. I'm actually getting a letter from our legal saying we need to read this.
If I want to change ports, I can. All that could be done right here, and off she goes, Edgar. I'm pretty sure I am making your 5-minute challenge. So that is it. So we rolled through the install, and now we just did an upgrade. And that is it from an upgrade perspective. There's really nothing more that
4 minutes, Vic. You won.
So there's really nothing more that needs to be done. So what's happening right now is Verify just went and it upgraded. It is going to go ahead and restart Verify. So keep in mind, if this is a high profile server that cannot have downtime, maybe because you have some CCX wallboards or some CCX dashboards, this may be something that you want to do after hours, but the downtime is minimal. We are probably going to talk about less than 1 minute of downtime. And remember, I'm going to do my :8080. Now, you notice I am doing :8080, Edgar. We do also support HTTPS. We support single sign-on. We support wildcard certs, private certs. So that's all supported within Verify as well. So if I wanted to go ahead and pop over to 8443, I absolutely could. So essentially what's happening right now in the background is I did jump the gun here because I know I'm running low on time for this 5 minutes. But Verify is just restarting in the background. Once it does, it's going to pop back up over here. It's going to ask us for a login. And that's it. I mean, Verify done, installed, and upgraded, all within really probably about 30 minutes. And that's with a little bit of banter. And Edgar, you owe me some beer.
I will send you that beer.
So, hey, everybody, I really want to thank everybody for the time. We tried to make this as fun as possible. I hope everybody was able to hang out. And now I'm going to go ahead and pass the ball back to Annie and Tom at the bar, and we're going to give away some more stuff. Thank you guys again for your time.
More prizes. Thanks, everyone.
Guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you guys some Mixology class and show you how to make some signatures. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to the Mixology class. I am here at Downtown Bar in downtown San Jose. We're going to show you guys 2 signature drinks. the whiskey sour and the Paloma. Hey Tom, where are you? We're actually live right now. Can you guys help me make the drink?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
All right, so I'm going to show you how to make the whiskey sour. It's fairly simple, only requires a few ingredients.
Yep.
All right, so go ahead and pour in the whiskey bourbon, and then you only pour in one shot.
Well, turkey.
Pour in one shot. Pour it in the cocktail mixer.
All the way or just half?
Oh, you pour in one shot. Perfect.
Okay.
And then go ahead and pour in 1 ounce of rye, also one shot as well.
Okay.
Make sure you don't spill. Alcohol is very expensive.
Ooh.
All right. Whoa, that's a lot. Okay, and then I want to go ahead and pour in 1 ounce of simple syrup. Simple syrup is just simply sugar and water.
Do I pour it here or pour it here?
You pour it inside here.
Okay.
1 ounce.
Good.
Keep going.
More.
Yeah. This is what makes it sweeter. Perfect.
Okay.
All right, and do you want me to do the egg white?
Yes, please.
Okay. And then it also requires egg white. That's what makes it really frothy. And then you just separate the egg white from the yolk. Like that.
Whoa.
Okay. And then you reserve the egg yolk on the side. And then go ahead, Tom, and then squeeze in some lemon juice.
All right, let's do this.
All right, you pour that whole thing in. And then go ahead and top it off.
You mean shake it?
Yeah.
I guess.
And shake it really well.
This way or this way?
Any way you want.
All right. Oh, shoot.
Oh my gosh, you're spilling. Be careful. Come on. You're spilling. Oh. All right, so now go ahead and pour it over a glass of ice. There you go. I'm gonna put a little strainer on top.
Okay.
Pour it over ice. Spill it all over yourself.
There you go.
That's how you make a whiskey sour. You want to do a taste test?
There
Good.
goes nothing.
Good.
Mm. Very good. There. Down it all the way.
Oh, it's really
A
strong.
little bit too strong.
Too strong. Up next, we're gonna make the Paloma drink.
Yep.
All right. So for this one, we have tequila. Go ahead and pour in 1 ounce of tequila because today we're going to use Hornito.
You got pour.
You want to just take a shot of that?
No, I'm more of a Hennessy guy.
All right.
You can.
Oh, no, I'm scared. I'm scared. So I'm going to pour in that 1 shot of Hornitos.
Here.
Yeah, anywhere you want. Okay, now we're going to have some grapefruit soda. Go ahead and pour in 1 ounce as well, which is 1 shot. Good job, Tom. You're a good bartender. Don't spill, don't spill. All right, go ahead and pour it in.
Ooh. There you go.
And then go ahead and squeeze in this grapefruit and pour in that whole entire wedge.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Wow, this is easy.
Mm-hmm. Just like how you did earlier, make sure not to spill.
Oh.
Wrong cup.
Oh shoot, wrong cup. There we go.
Shake it well, okay? Thank you.
Let's try this again. Ah.
You're spilling! Please stop with it all.
Okay.
Go ahead and pour it over. Taste test and let me know which one is your favorite.
There you go. Let's try. Oh, look at that.
More orange.
First time doing this.
All right. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, everybody.
Right.
You
Right.
first.
You go. Here.
A lot better.
Is it better?
Yeah. No? There you go.
And then now we're going to be announcing a few more winners for our very last round of prizes. For this round, we're going to be giving away 2 more Amazon gift cards, 1 craft beer subscription with 24 beers a month, and also, last but not least, we're giving away an Apple iPhone 11 Pro. Tom, do you want to do the honor and announce the winners again?
Yep, let's do this. The first winner is Jason Pouyer.
Woo! You have another Amazon gift card. And then the second winner for the Amazon gift card is?
It is Alex Padron. Woo! Congrats.
Congrats, Alex. And then the craft beer subscription?
Wow, this is an awesome one. The winner is Jason Gajeski.
Woo! 24 beers per month.
Yes.
4 different styles and 6 of each. Last but not least, the grand finale that everybody has been waiting for, the Apple iPhone 11 Pro. The last winner is Tom.
The winner is Tom Waddell. Congrats. Woo! iPhone 11.
Congratulations, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to be all here. We're going to wrap it up with the after party and the Q&A. So stick around.
A bit.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom and Annie, so much live from the bar showing us how to make those 2 drinks. At this time, guys, we're going to stick around, have a few drinks, and we'll try to get a lot of your questions answered. I know a lot of questions has been fed in, requesting different feature requests and things of like that. So
All right. It's Q&A
So,
time.
yeah, for a couple questions here. I'm just gathering up here. So first question is from John. John wants to know, will there be a UCCX time widget as well? Going into the 12.2 things, talking a little bit about the time intervals. This is going back for the time frame that you're searching for data. We'll be able to graph and summarize based off of per hour abandonment rates, per hour calls in queue. So all the stats that you see today, just in broken out by time interval. So hopefully that answers your question, John. Go back here and pick a few others. All right, question from Manuel. Manuel asks or states, I currently use your Variphy software and really love it. Is one of your upgrades going to work with Cisco CCX using single sign-on? Single sign-on using Okta. Okta. We're actually partnering up with Okta. We just partnered up with them. We are in development to get CCX connections, any Cisco branded SSO connection with Okta. So we are actively looking into this, Manuel. So hopefully that answers your question. Daniel asked, and I'm not sure if this was answered or not. Daniel asks, he thinks he won a prize. Do I need to do anything to claim it? For all of our prize winners, we will be in contact with you after this session. So be on the lookout. If your name was called, we'll be in contact with you. A lot of people, I must say, happy to see that Edgar got soaked with beer.
You know, I think it's good for the pores, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It wasn't intentional, Edgar. It wasn't intentional, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. You know what I did learn, though? I learned that flies really like beer. I've been swatting flies away for the last 10 minutes.
I wonder if they like vodka, Edgar. You think maybe they like? You think they like vodka? I mean, I like vodka. We could try that next year, maybe.
Close your eyes.
They can wear goggles, yeah.
So Neil has a question regarding, we hinted at this a little bit during our product roadmap discussion, but specific to Jabber logins on the dashboard. So I think this is kind of going around at any given period of time. How many people are actively using Jabber? Currently we can get that information based off of call statistics. So obviously we get, call data being routed through Jabber. We get that data. We're able to report on that, even over time intervals. Neil, what we'll do is we'll sync back up after this to get a more clear definition of what you're looking for and see if this is something that we could add to the roadmap future release. Let's see here. There's a lot of questions. Jeremy asks, and we've seen this a lot. Jeremy would like to see, and Lane or anyone else that would like to chime in, we could definitely roundtable this, but Jeremy would like to see the ability to report on active logged in users for hunt groups. So this is something that I have seen. This is on our radar. As of now, Lane, correct me if I'm wrong, as of now, I don't know if we have that in near-term roadmap, but that is something that we have looked into the potential of doing, just seeing if it's technically feasible.
Yeah, it is from the perspective of the device that they're actually logged into on. One of the limitations that CUCM Call Manager does have is it doesn't have a history of the login activity. It only merely shows the current state when that state was entered in. So if you log in, log out, log in, log out several times over the course of an hour, the UCM would only be able to give us the most recent state that it was in and what time. So if you last logged in at 1:15 p.m. and now it's 3 o'clock, we would see the 1:15 p.m. but no history before that. So that would be the main limitation from a Cisco standpoint that we would have to be constrained within. But we have heard this request and we're looking as to how best we can kind of productize that.
Excellent, thanks, Lane. Brad asks, is there any roadmap items for incorporating Cisco RTMT logs or alerts into Verify? So I think this is a little bit different from the audit log that we're doing. I think this is more system performance debugs that RTMT typically sees from the Call Manager, being able to see that in Verify. So I'm not sure if we've placed this on roadmap. Lane, do you know if this has come up?
Not specifically. I assume it sounds like they're talking a little bit more about the vitality or the health of the servers. I know with Cisco has back in the old days, perfmon type alerting that can be done, general health of the server and some other statistics that might be more specific to call processing and stuff, some counts there, kind of like what you might be able to get via SNMP. So yeah, we can certainly take a look at that and see if that's what's possibly feasible and then what statistics we could get for the different products that we support, whether it's just CUCM or CCX or of course Unity Connection as well. So yeah, we can certainly table that and do some digging on our end.
Yeah, excellent. And for a lot of these questions, if it's something that we can sync up one-on-one to get a little bit, deeper dive of understanding of what the requirement, we'll be doing this after the session. But another question coming in, it's kind of broadens the interface to other Cisco platforms. But Tim would like to know if there's any improvements around 911 alerting, specifically for to be compliant against Kerry's Law and Ray-Baum's Act. And so if nobody or if anybody's not familiar with what Kerry's Law or Ray-Baum's Act is, it's basically the ability to dial out 911, not requiring an access code, to route just 911. And then also Ray-Baum's Act is to provide an explicit location for large facilities that is based off of state legislator, possibly even federal, but being, CER, Cisco Emergency Responder, any kind of talks about getting that type of information and including it within our 911 alerting lane?
Beyond obviously one of the limitations that we have now, which we're upfront about, is of course that we're CDR based, and so for us the CDR is only generated 1 minute or so, or potentially longer after the call completes. Which if you're on the phone for 911 for 30 minutes, is the soonest that we'll know about it is at least 31 minutes, which we recognize is not always helpful. With that said, when that info is made available to us, we do have the ability to configure an alert that's based and sent that has the user and other information that is out of CUCM. We don't have any direct plans to integrate with CER, so we'd have to think about how that might be possible with Cisco, and of course not trying to directly compete with what they're doing. So we can certainly table that and kind of discuss that further.
Excellent. Thank you, Lane. Next question, I believe, was answered, but I would like to kind of notify everyone. So Randall specifically asked, are there any plans to be able to install it on a CentOS Linux platform? He announces and he recognizes that we do support Ubuntu, and our OVA is actually built upon Ubuntu. But Randall, we do have a separate Linux installer. So as long as you have the CentOS operating system installed on a virtual machine, you can install our application on top of that. We've done that. We've seen that a few times. So you should be able to do that as long as you have the OS on a VM. We do have our Linux installer. It's just not, our OVA is just built on Ubuntu. Yeah. Next question is from Kevin. In CCX Live dashboard data, even with permalinks, must be logged into. So our permalink is actually, it can be configured one of two ways. As an administrator of a system, you have the option of creating a permalink, which by default is a read-only version into one's dashboard. It's unauthenticated, read-only. You do have the option of applying a passphrase to that permalink. So if you're thinking that a permalink requires a password, it's because it was created to include a passphrase. You could certainly disable that and get an unauthenticated permalink. Basically just supplies you the URL, you pass that URL out to your colleagues, and it brings up a version of the dashboard with no authentication whatsoever. So I wanted to address that for Kevin. Serious question from Chris. He says, how difficult or easy do you find working with the Informix database used by CCX and other parts of Call Manager? So this kind of segues, with our connection into CCX as well as our access tools to Call Manager. I guess, Lane, as a representative of the development and product team, I mean, you've been seeing this for years. Personally, how do you feel working with it?
Oh, as a Cisco partner, I'd say the Informix scheme is great. It's great to work with. There's a lot of documentation. As with any integration with any third-party product, there's always some little nuances that you kind of learn. And having worked with Axle since its inception back in the early 2000s, that's relative to that, it's not too different. There's some things to learn and some things that you'll just wouldn't get until you deal with it. So it's certainly possible compared to the CUCM schema. It's not nearly as complex. But there certainly are some things that we wish it could do, but that's true of us as well. So.
Kent asks, if I replace UCCX with Fortinet call center, will that make any difference with verified data collection? From a call manager or UCM perspective, no. But if you have a direct connection, Kent, into UCCX, either with our wallboards or UCCX historical reporting, yes, that obviously that data would no longer be there for us if you decommission your UCCX for another call center. So yeah, that platform would need to be there for UCCX related data. For CDR related data, as long as you have that call manager, you should be fine on that front, Kent. Here's a good question. So someone pointed out, Jeremy S. pointed out the fact that we are overlapping with Cisco Live sessions tomorrow. This was unknown at the time that we decided to do this, but I believe, if you could take an hour or hour and a half time, it should run no longer than 2 hours. We do, know that this will overlap in a way with some of the Cisco Live sessions, obviously unintentionally, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles, as they say. We'd love if you can make it. If not, we definitely understand. Right. Edgar, some are actually wondering if you are afraid of beer. Can you
If I'm
please tell
afraid of
everyone
beer?
if you're afraid of beer?
You know what? I've had, by the way, for those that don't know me personally, Dan and I went to college together.
We did.
So if I am afraid of beer, it's probably because of Dan's influence and how much beer I drink in college. So I tread cautiously around beer. Let's just say that.
Well, I'm looking through the questions. I think we hit majority of them. If we haven't, I do apologize. There's been a flood of questions. We'll certainly go through here and sync up one-on-one if there's something that we haven't mentioned live in the production. So be on the lookout if that, and of course, you can always reach out to us after that. But for now, I think we'll wrap up Q&A. Phil, I'll throw it back to you for wrapping this guy up.
Awesome job. Thank you all. Thank you all for attending as well. Day 1 in the books. Don't forget, we're doing it all over again tomorrow for day 2. We have 2 customer success interviews, 2 deep dives, CCX wallboards, and also hunt groups. We're also going to be giving away our grand prize worth over $3,000 for the ultimate work from home setup. So please attend the live stream to see if you've won the grand prize as well. So I want to thank you all. Be safe, and want to wish you all a happy rest of the day. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Cheers.